There's still a chair up here. There's a chair back over here for you seating.
Oh, yeah.
I'll show you. They're like attached to the desk. This is Chad's. Are we, are you guys ready?
Yes.
I know some of the chairs are attached to the desk. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone ready? I'd like to call to order the Monday, August 19th, 2024 regular meeting of the Sandusky City School Board. So Huron City School Board. I'm thinking Sandusky for some reason. We're in Huron. Anyways, if you could call the roll, please.
Mrs. Henners?
Yes.
Dr. LaFay?
Here.
Mr. Rager? Here. Hartley?
Here.
Mrs. Mast?
Here. Could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda tonight, we need an approval for the regular agenda. So moved. Second.
Mrs. Hartley?
Yes.
Mrs. Henners?
Yes.
Mr. Rager?
Yes.
Dr. LaFay?
Yes.
Mrs. Mast?
Yes. We will be moving on to item number 3. Before we start item number 3, we have designated a separate time for audience community participation for one of our policies, release time for religious instruction, just because of the interest in this policy. So we will not be addressing that policy or anything to do with that during item number 3. We're going to be waiting until we get to that item number on our agenda. So if there is anyone who would like to make a comment to the board at this time about anything other than that policy, I would invite you to approach the podium. Item number 4, administrative reports.
Yeah, so up first we have our student board liaison, Grant Bauer.
Hi everyone, I hope you all are all doing well and enjoying the last days of summer. Recently we've had a lot of course, sports as you all have seen on social media. I think we're all doing pretty well. In my opinion, I feel like we've seen a lot of wins, so that's always a good sign. Open house is tomorrow, as most of you know, for all 3 schools. At the high school, I know that Sources of Strength is helping out with freshman orientation, which should be a blast for them. Just try to get the freshmen used to the building, I guess you would say. I don't know if any of the other schools are doing anything. You know.
Off the top of my head, I don't know. Yeah. Well, I take that back. I do know. At Woodlands, there's a butterfly activity where students are encouraged to pick 2 or 3 goals for the year, and then they build out a little purple butterfly, and they're going to put that at the butterfly garden. And so that's happening during open house tomorrow at Woodlands.
So both of those events should be pretty fun for the students. And the ice cream social was last Wednesday, and thank you for inviting me to that. I had a blast, and it seems like the kids also had fun with that. Yeah, that's all I got for right now.
It's good. Thanks, Grant.
Dr. McDonald?
So I would also agree that the ice cream social was a blast. It's very exciting just to see kids excited to be back, and it's a great venue for that. So what I have for you tonight, you'll see on the agenda, is that revision to our gifted service offerings. That just formalizes what I had mentioned back in June, where at Woodlands we have 1 licensed gifted intervention specialist. She'll be seeing grades 3, 4, and 5 for mathematics this year, where we do some acceleration to do by the time they get to 7th, 8th grade, they're taking that high school credit. You'll also see that the ELA has been rolled back to grades 4 and 5. Our 3rd grade ELA teachers, they'll be working with the gifted students in their classroom. They won't go to gifted services per se, and then we will also be reporting that accordingly down to the state. So looking forward to a great year. People are excited. Lots of good things happening. So if you have any questions, I know the print was really small in that document. Sorry, I was trying to get it all on one page. Those going forward will be in the student handbooks, which you adopted earlier in the spring before those scheduling notices were made final. So that's why.
So just to be clear, they're going to still get challenged.
Correct,
It
yeah.
just will be in a different setting.
Correct. So Ohio has this fun law where we are mandated to identify students for their giftedness. We are not mandated to serve. So Huron takes that on with this additional. And so with looking at the schedules and with combining the schools last year, there was just too much of a rub to fit it all in on one person's plate. So we're going for quality. The third grade ELE teachers have been fantastic about, they're going to have those. Yeah. Of course, we'll look at it in the spring to see, evaluate, see how it went.
Mr. Limberrios?
All right. We are 1 month through the fiscal year, so we should be around 8%. It's pretty early, so the numbers are a little skewed. 15.5% of revenue for all funds we're in. We did have a tax advance that hit in July. We have another one that's hit in August, so that'll be reflected next month. Expenditures for all funds were at 7%. Donations for July, $76,265. $60,000 of that coming from the Axo Nobel for the McCormick Auditorium. Item C under my report is to engage Pebble and Wagner for FY25. They helped one of our neighboring districts with their wind turbine, and the story on that is they had their district's name and our address. So we lost that contract back in the flood that we had. So I don't have a copy of it, but kind of do because it seems like they used the same template, same contract. So he gave me the rundown on how easy that went for them, and I imagine it'll be hopefully just as easy for us. Originally, they had quoted us $25,000 to remove it. That district didn't pay a cent, so I'm hoping that that's the route it goes. Item D is SERS pickup. Last month we did STRS. This is SERS. We have one employee that's in that one, so we need to pass that one as well. Item E, there was a purpose and budget for girls tennis. Other news, GAP collections have started for FY24. I'm working with Julie and the group to get that completed. The finance committee met for the first time on August 2nd. We went over a lot of the different finances, the 5-year forecast, the capital spending plan, and things like that. Our next scheduled meeting is tentatively set for November 1st, which will be right before the November forecast. So we'll be able to go over that in depth. And then the last thing I have is Capital Conference is approaching. So if you guys know that you're wanting to attend, let me know if you're going to need a room or anything like that, so I can get everyone registered for that.
Please send us an email that gives you the agenda.
Usually it's like right around Labor Day.
The dates for that is November 10th through the 12th, so you're there. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
I got one question about like the free and reduced lunch program and our efforts to try and capture that information from our parents and families. I know in the past that's been a bit of a challenge for us. There's a lot of folks that don't return the paperwork. What are we doing this year to try and make sure that everybody's turning that information in and understands how important it is to get that information, whether you think you're going to qualify or not, for us to get your form back?
Yeah, I know one thing that we're trying to do is for those that do turn it in and do qualify, we're offering some free sports passes to athletic events and things like that. And Chad, I don't know, you back there? Chad, I know we talked about this the other day. Do you have any updates on that? Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Would it be acceptable to add it to that packet of forms that we have to fill out at the beginning
The final forms packet, I believe it.
Yeah, I think there is a link on there that
Yeah.
takes you then to that Paycor, that the electronic version is signing up. A lot of people don't like the electronic version, so then we send the paper as well. So we're trying to capture them in both opportunities. Yep.
All for you?
That's it for me.
All right. Dr. Tapman?
Right. First, I'll review items on the agenda. We're having the second reading and then action on board policies that were first reviewed in July, except for the one regarding release for religious instruction. That's pulled out of the consent agenda. B and C are special education service contracts for different services specific for students with disabilities. Letter D is communication consultant. So last year we had, Cynthia, her name.
Students.
Thanks. Yeah, Cynthia Studer serving in that capacity. She did an excellent job. She also works in the kitchen and dedicated mom that she's decided to roll back some. And so this new consultant, she's also a local in the district, has kids in the district, and so we're expecting nice things from her. Lorain County Metro Park pool rental, so that's for middle school swim, and that's the same structure that we had last year. Worked well, so we're continuing that forward. F is the curtain and runners for the theater at McCormick, and as I think Mike said, Axel Noble was a big donor for that, paying the majority of it, and then our PI fund is covering the balance of that. And then Julie already talked about the gifted service plan. Bus routes are on there. They're the tentative bus routes. Bus drivers have been calling families to say, here's your approximate pickup time, drop-off time, and bus number. Not significant changes, just minor tweaks. Working to get that final bus to Woodlands for pickup. Our goal is 250, right? Yep, 250. And then we have certified personnel items and classified personnel items, supplementals. So we have resident educator mentors. So first 2 years of employment for a teacher, they're a resident educator, and then they move on to their professional license. So they have a mentor for that. And then also we have buddy mentors, so new to the district, but they're already with their professional license. And then the last there is the golf assistant coach. Our enrollment for boys golf is 17, and so we're over that 15 threshold, and so the assistant coach is needed. And then the last item are stipends, and so we have 2 IST coaches, grade level coaches. The other ones have been previously approved. Those 2 were held by a teacher who's now at McCormick, so she gave them up, and a different teacher's taking them on. Not on the agenda today. We had new employee orientation day, and it was a good success. Jody kicked us off well. We had, we met here just to sort of welcome them to the district, talk about strategic priorities from the board, talked about initiatives that we have going on, welcome them, and made them feel part of the Tiger family. It ended with a bus tour around the community, so you might have saw the bus out running around, and then a lunch at the boat basin. So that's one of those nice Huron perks. Not too many districts in Ohio can offer a boat basin, river, lake view lunch. So it's always awesome to have. Wednesday, we have all staff coming for convocation day, so we'll kick it off with meetings in the morning and then building-based meetings in the afternoon. And Thursday is the big day for all students. The only grade level that staggers start is kindergarten, so we have half the kindergartners on Thursday, the other half on Friday, and then all the kindergartners come the following Monday. It's a good way to welcome the littlest ones in, get them acclimated, get them ready to roll, and go from there. As Grant already said, fall athletics are underway. We have our first home volleyball match this Thursday against Norwalk. Friday is home against St. Paul for football. We've also had soccer, golf, cross country, and girls tennis rolling. So great efforts on there. And yeah, wins are good, and we also learn from losses too. So it's excellent performance there on those extracurriculars. And unless there's any questions, that's it for my part.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. I had a question on it's not anything on here. Is there a progress being made on the trying to consolidate the apps for sports teams and the school? Like, it's really hitting us this year. I don't know how many my wife counted the other day, we're up to, but it's quite
Yeah,
a
so
few.
that is something with the HEA Association, we're reforming the tech committee. And so that's something that really the tech committee can start those conversations about. I know with our new activity and athletics director, he has reinforced with the coaches, we need to be using a platform. Remind is sort of the top pick right now. But this direct texting with coaches to students or coaches to parents, we really need a platform for that. But consolidating them, yeah, that's definitely a priority too. And it's probably, what's age appropriate at the elementaries, then as you roll up to middle and then high. So what you have at the high school might be different than what you have at the elementary. But consolidating, so like I'm like you, I have all these different apps. And I'm like, which group is on this app and that? So yeah, that's something that is on the to-do list for sure. Yeah.
We're up to item number 8. Need a motion for approval for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? Any other questions? Okay.
Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Mrs. Henners,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay.
Yes. Okay. Item number 9. This is policy JEFB, release time for religious instruction. And at this time, we will be having public comment. If there is anyone here that came in and did not fill out a piece of paper with your name and address and phone number, and you would like to speak this evening, we would just ask that you would fill one of those out quickly and give it to our treasurer. Just as a reminder, each participant is allowed 5 minutes. We have an allotted time of 30 minutes for the total audience participation. If there are more people that want to speak and 30 minutes is up, the board does have the option to make a motion and extend that community participation time. So we will absolutely take that into consideration. And also, just as a reminder, this is not a back and forth dialogue with the board. This is community members making a statement, making their opinions known. There will not be a back and forth between board members and community members. So we'll go ahead and start.
The first one I have is Reverend Pamela Sayer.
It seems as though I've hit the same place where I used to bat when I played varsity softball. First, lead off. So I am Pamela Sayer. I am, as I've spoken with you before, I come at this as both having been an educator for 11 years and now as a pastor for a little over 22. So I've got a lot to say, and not a lot of times. I'm hoping the other folks will hit on a lot of things because I think I hit a lot when I spoke last. I had a lot of concerns last month. I have to say that as I've continued to read and research and meet with folks, I actually have more concerns now than I had then. Things that continue to be about like the disruption of the school day when kids go in and out in large groups, concerns about educational outcomes, even if it is related to recess and lunch. I still believe that there are some problems with that. Social emotional impact when kids are not in class. Reading through liability paperwork, I believe that there are some major liability issues that are involved in here. I also have a concern with the incentivizing and the pressuring of inviting other students that aren't already signed up as kids are sent back with stuff. So that is an issue for me. I'm concerned about some of the answers to what LifeWise calls their difficult questions. And again, I won't go into specifics. If you want to know, I can tell you what those are, but there are particularly specifics because of specifically LifeWise says that it is non-denominational and doesn't get into the weeds. Well, the reality is it does get into the weeds depending on what denomination you're in, because those things are important to us. And reading through their materials, I personally think that it is a detriment to some of our students. I was also concerned, I'd asked about discipline stuff, and the policy, as I read it, sounds good: remind, redirect, remove. The problem I have is when a group of folks has gotten release time and you send them out, but when the discipline problem becomes too big, they return them to the school. Then it becomes the school's issue then. Now, perhaps I'm misreading that, but that's how I understand it. So how does that not then become disruptive if we're returning a student to school who has had issues? So I'm just hopeful. I read a lot of things, and a lot of it comes down to what a principal does. And so, I want kids to learn about Jesus. I mean, clearly, I do this all day, every day. I don't want it done this way, and that becomes an issue for me. I would suggest that all courses be made core courses, which is a way a lot of school boards and school districts are handling things. If it is required by the state and it receives a grade, it becomes a core class. So art, music, phys ed, things like that won't be affected. I also might suggest that you consider not releasing students to third parties, particularly in mass in any way. And most concerning to me is, so I was reading through stuff today, and I found this quote, and I'll try to kind of go through it quickly, but it happens to be a parent of a Jewish student who writes this. For the reasons you laid out, I didn't beef with the school board when it first rolled out. That since changed. Now, in its 4th year, I have knowledge that an overwhelming majority of my kids' classmates attend, and even though we opted out, he is absolutely impacted. He, 1, is left out and beckoned to participate with candy and cookies, and 2, he sits, as in 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and now a 4th grader in a study hall learning nothing new. And then parenthetically, what would he have been learning all this time if this wasn't a disruptive option? 3, he views study hall as punishment and resents coming to school on those days. 4, we get to fight regularly now about why he can't just believe in Jesus like all his friends. 5, now suddenly he's had taunting conversations in class about non-believers going to hell, which neither we nor his Jewish religious classes teach anyone. Why didn't I pick a public school to avoid this? Oh, wait, I did. And that's concerning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next name I have Mike. I can't read the last name. Is there a Mike? All right. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. I'm Father Mike Floyd, and it won't take you long to realize I'm originally from Australia. I'm the pastor at Christ Episcopal, and the one thing that I really want to state to begin with is that we're certainly not against our kids hearing the gospel or hearing Christian education. I come from a background in Australia where scripture in schools has been a part of the life of schools since way back. But it's a broad-based educational opportunity for churches to come into schools and to have representatives of their own denominations present the gospel as they understand it. And that's one of my concerns. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a narrow understanding of how the gospel is presented. We did, I have to say, we did have meetings or a meeting with the LifeWise board, and I'm very grateful for that. I appreciate their willingness to meet with us. There are still some unresolved issues from that meeting, and I hope that we're going to have another meeting and we'll continue to meet. The opportunity that we have for kids to hear is important. I'm not as well educated as Pamela is on the whole issue of a lot of the concerns, but it does concern me that it is disruptive to kids, and it's a narrow presentation of the gospel, which I find myself in a really funny position because I'm considered one of the most conservative, most evangelical pastors in the Episcopal diocese that I belong to, and for me to be on this side of this issue is very funny to me, actually. But it's because of my concerns about how things are presented and how people are instructed about the gospel. So that's what I have.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Doug Wilson.
Thank you. My concern is that at this time, schools by law may enact a policy. House Bill 445, which is in committee right now, will change that law to shall enact policy. And that may take place as soon as the General Assembly reconvenes and committee progresses. And I say be proactive and prepared if that happens, and not reactive and scared. Enact a policy with teeth to protect the students, staff, and members of the board now and in the future. A policy that covers any organization that attempts to establish a program, such as Likewise, has been noted for some of their leaders and teachers having questionable histories of inappropriate contact or activity with students. This particular program covers grades K through 12, and that's a lot of kids. A policy should require all participants of any organization conducting religious instruction, all leaders, teachers, transporters, and even staff at the facility where the instruction takes place should be required at the expense of the organization to be subject to the same background check required by the board of its teachers and appropriate staff. My personal opinion. As Pastor Pam said, only parents or legal guardians should be allowed to sign their students out of school. You're giving rights to third parties, and that does open up a lot of potential liabilities. These things I know because of my experience dealing with local governments and so forth down in Delaware County when I lived down there. Any episodes of bullying, coercion, or intimidation of students, parents, or school staff by participants in or conducting the program should be grounds for termination of that program. Boom. One strike and you're out. We can't have bullying of our students. School's hard enough as it is for teachers and students. And as Pastor Pamela said, all classes should be deemed to be core classes because they're all important. There are other safeguards that could be enacted, and these suggestions are just a start. I understand the board planned to take action on the matter today, but I implore you to consider safeguards for the district students, staff, and yourselves, and them to the current policy that you're considering adopting. And I thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Linda Wilson.
I'm speaking on behalf of all of those people who teach specials. I'm a retired high school art teacher, and as an art educator, I often experienced a number of interruptions every single day, such as random drug testing for students in sports, eye screening. My kids were always taken out of class because they didn't want to interrupt core classes, even though at high school I was still core. I know this frequently occurred with the middle and elementary school art teachers because it was a topic of conversation whenever we met. That being said, none of those interruptions lasted an entire period. As I mentioned in my previous comments at the last board meeting, I know what these interruptions are doing to the teachers who are having students taken out during the specials. And they are specials because they are. I saw a couple of videos on the LifeWise page, and I have the screenshots discussing the fact that students are only missing electives, specials, lunch and recess, which indicates to me that they don't care about the true enrichment students receive in these classes. The teachers teaching those specials have Ohio State content standards to meet, and kids missing an entire class period every week is adding so much burden to the teachers and preventing the children from learning and growing. Another video, a LifeWise mother mentioned her son saying Jesus is far more important than gym class. No one is trying to compete with Jesus in public schools. They're just trying to do their job for their kids. And as I recall, sitting in algebra class, I was doing a lot of praying when I was in high school. There's a notion that God isn't allowed in schools. Well, I hardly think that God, who is omnipotent and omniscient, is going to be stopped by brick and steel walls. This is a recent conversation with a friend and fellow art teacher in a district south of here who signed her son up for LifeWise, thinking it would be an enriching experience. She was really upset when she sent me this. She's had many students crying not to go a certain week, and they felt forced. Her own son was being coerced to go after she had said that he was not going to go, she told his teachers and the principal. She had no idea she had to let them know because she didn't think that was their jurisdiction. I walked up to the leader, making him get on the bus, and they said they'd take care of the bullying situation he had mentioned, talking him into something that I had already tried to stop. We have another mom who had a very bad experience, and the leader of the LifeWise group mentioned that it was them against the enemy, calling the teachers the enemy. She said their LifeWise leader was very, very difficult to work with, as most of the rest of them were. Regarding lunch and recess, there are times in which kids get to socialize with their peers, be physically active outside. These are skills many of us grew up with and allowed some downtime in which they don't have to have more information stuffed into their little heads. As far as videos I saw in which LifeWise personnel said parents are just so busy these days, they don't have time to take their kids to church. I disagree. I took my kids to church and youth group while teaching full-time. Kids were in soccer, band, track, cross country, and several other activities. Parents just need to rearrange their schedules and do what countless other families have done for decades. Regarding transparency with what the students are learning, full lesson plans, including how they tie in with Ohio content standards as well as progress in the students' learning, should be available to parents as well as the public. We had a data management system in my district called Canvas. We were required to create all our lessons on that platform, which were 100% accessible to any parent or family member and connected with Ohio content standards, which are also 100% public. There's no agenda to those content standards. In fact, due to them, I was able to enrich my lessons all the more. We also created rubrics with each of those lessons for grading and make comments regarding the students' progress. It improved communication immensely. I'm hearing that there are other groups who are interested in using the 1952 law about RTRI, some of them very controversial, but if you allow LifeWise, you must also allow them. Think of the number of interruptions that would entail. Lastly, regarding safety, LifeWise teachers' background checks should be as thorough as public school teachers. We all know what happened recently with a LifeWise teacher not being properly vetted. Public school teachers are required a 4-year college education in their content area. According to the LifeWise guidelines, this is right off their page, a minimum of 2 years of teaching experience in either a school or a church setting is the only requirement for their teachers. Then they only receive 2 to 6 weeks of training to teach for LifeWise. The act of kids leaving the building en masse during the day opens up another scary can of worms. Our buildings were locked down the entire day unless there was an occasional field trip, with stringent requirements for anyone entering or leaving the building. Field trip required medical records, attendance, and a notification to the lunch staff that a certain number of students were going to be missing from lunch that day. I ask you, due to all of these things, to seriously consider the ramifications of allowing this into Huron Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Lisa Sable. Hopefully I said that right.
Hello. For full disclosure, I am not a parent in your district. I am a grandmother in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. I come here as a member of the Parents Against LifeWise group, and I want to let you know that everything that you're hearing today is happening all across Ohio and Indiana. We have so many resources showing that we have pastors that are against the program. We have parents who are reporting that their kids have been bullied. We have teachers talking about how it's impacting their classes. We have students that are just sitting in their study hall by themselves because all of the other students in the class are gone. So those students aren't receiving any kind of instruction during that time, and they're left behind and they're ostracized, and then they're pressured into joining. This is happening everywhere that LifeWise is implemented. I want to caution you against the optics of being involved with LifeWise, because LifeWise will just incorporate themselves in your school flyers or your activities, in the communities that they are in. They will have their logos along with any of the other activities that are happening in the community. And those businesses that are associated with those activities are like, we aren't supporting LifeWise. We don't agree with them. We don't know how our name got involved with theirs. So they're a little underhanded when they come to the community and say that we're just non-denominational. I also want to encourage you to codify all the graded classes as core curriculum and only allow the legal guardians to sign the kids out and not a third party. I also wanted to say that the LifeWise Academy is connected with Project 2025. They have LifeWise is powered by the Gospel Project, which is affiliated with LifeWise, with Lifeway, the Southern Baptist Convention's publishing house. So it's not non-denominational. This group is notorious for sexual abuse, cover-ups, racism, homophobia, transphobia, and nationalism, which all of those are tied to the policy agenda, Project 2025. So just be careful of the optics in your school if you choose to implement it, and just be very careful.
Thank you very much.
Next we have Ashley S. I don't wanna butcher your last name. Yeah, thank you.
His name was Thomas. I married into that. So my name is Ashley Sunoka. I am a Huron community member, a parent of 3 kids in our school district.
Ashley, can I ask you to step closer and speak right into the microphone so
Sure.
people that are listening at home can
Oh,
hear you?
absolutely. Thanks. So like I said, I'm sorry. My name is Ashley Sunoka. I'm a Huron community member and a parent of 3 kids in the district. I've been actively involved in the school and know the families. As a way to serve the community in a larger capacity, I accepted the role as director of Huron City LifeWise. LifeWise is a release time character education program that operates off school property with private funds and only for students who have parent permission. It's an optional class that we hope to offer during lunch and recess for Woodlands Elementary students later this fall. Character education is already woven into our district, with Mr. Dowdy's reminders of KCR 24/7, 365. Woodlands is also a ruler school. Mr. Kuspel talks about this during the morning announcements every day. It's an acronym for the 5 skills of emotional intelligence: recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating. Ruler supports entire school communities in understanding the value of emotions, building the skills of emotional intelligence, and creating and maintaining a positive school climate. LifeWise is an opportunity to provide Bible-based character education for families who opt in. Each child in the participating grades will be offered a LifeWise class 1 day per week. It will only run during the regularly scheduled lunch and recess time. The goal is to offer character education support through Bible stories that focus on traits like respect, honesty, integrity, and attentiveness. The LifeWise curriculum is available for review on the main website, lifewise.org. Educators can also visit lifewise.org/impact to read how LifeWise programs have helped increase student attendance and decrease behavioral referrals.
All LifeWise staff and volunteers are required to have an FBI BCI background check and child safety training. Our local LifeWise will enroll students through a web-based permission form as parents opt in. The list of students will be provided to the Woodland staff in advance the day of each class. Students will either pack a lunch or can purchase a school lunch and be checked out at the front office by a LifeWise staff member and walk to their designated classroom location. Students will eat lunch together while discussing the character trait and Bible story and follow up with an activity or game. They'll return to the school when their classmates are coming in from recess. LifeWise operates during the school day to make it available to all families. In summary, we have a common goal with the district to walk alongside families and help our next generation grow to be productive members of society. LifeWise wants to be available for those that feel it's a good fit. We hope that our local district will continue to make space for parents to choose options that are best for their child. Our LifeWise community interest list currently has 111 signatures, and we do have a letter of support from a local church. The LifeWise, my LifeWise board is available to speak with any school officials that have questions or concerns. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
The last form I have is Julie Sawecki.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the board. I did want to say a big plus on the butterfly garden. I rode my bike there this weekend and it was beautiful. So, I live in the Huron City School District and I am against having the LifeWise program in our community. Number one, as a former school nurse, I would be concerned with young children leaving the safety of our school buildings for an outside venue. There are students with histories of allergies, asthma, seizure disorders, medication needs, and the list goes on. These medical concerns often need immediate attention. These off-site establishments may not have the safe surroundings we currently have in our public schools. Number two, getting school children from K through 5 organized to get on a bus or to help them return to school is disruptive at best and time-consuming. To accomplish this within a 1-hour span, including boarding the bus, travel time, getting off the bus at the LifeWise site, instructing the students, and then repeating all as the children return to their school, seems extremely overwhelming. Number three, to pull children away from recess, lunchtime, music, art, etc. is something I cannot understand. A child, well, obviously you had stated that they wouldn't be pulled out except for lunch and recess, but I'm not sure about that. And a child struggling in core subjects could discover a love and talent for music or art. As for recess, I think we can all agree on the benefits of recess for our children. Number four, if LifeWise wants to implement their program, they could schedule it for an hour before or after school, thus no disruption to the school day. Number five, there are many churches and places of worship throughout Erie County that offer children and teen religious programs. I support these programs that care for our children spiritually. They are involved with our towns and our communities on a day-to-day basis. And number six, at this time, LifeWise is the only religious program that is requesting to come into our school district. How will the school board handle situations in the future when other similar programs are started and all of a sudden one can just imagine how it would affect the day-to-day routines and scheduling at Woodlands Elementary School? If you are a proponent for LifeWise, request that they provide their program outside of the school day. I'm sure this could be easily accomplished. Support our school children and our teachers and staff as they navigate each school day. I am hoping you will join me in encouraging our school district to say no to the LifeWise program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
There's 4 minutes, 3 minutes.
Sorry, I didn't come with the intention to speak, but something that was said kind of spurred me. I am actually a mom of Jewish kids and a Jewish woman living in Huron, Ohio. Every year, the week before Christmas, I'm the one making shirts because they have Red Day and Green Day and Grinch Day and whatever. I'm the one making shirts that say Hanukkah, and you look through the Woodlands yearbook, my kids are the ones decked out in blue and silver and all of that. I've heard a lot of things said about the separation between, church and state. Well, according to Google Calendar, Christmas is listed as a religious holiday, but nobody seems to have a problem with that. What LifeWise is asking is for you to leave the choice up to the parents. I am the parent. I have 3 kids in this school district. The parents have the right to say no. My children in Huron City schools, and like most children, have been bullied more during recess and lunch than any other time during their school day. And they asked to come tonight. They're sitting right there because this affects them. And they wanted to know the outcome, one way or another, because it's important to them. Because this is something they wanted to know if it would be available, not just for them, for other kids too, because it mattered to them. So I think the thing that a lot of things happen, and we can always say, well, what if this or what if that? But ultimately, LifeWise is asking you to leave it up to the parents to decide if they want to release their kids. They're not asking you to release the kids to strangers. They're asking you to give them the right to make the decision for their child. And you have the right to say no. If you don't agree with the curriculum, that's fine. You have the right to say no. If you don't agree that your child should get religious education, you have the right to say no. My kids are more than willing to miss a lunch and a recess because they actually want to go and learn the Bible stories. Even if they don't align with what we believe, they still want to go. And nobody has pressured them. Nobody has forced them. This is their decision that they wanted to know about. And I think that's the thing, is that everybody talks about what's best for the kids and leave it up to the parents to decide what's right for their child, which is all that LifeWise is asking. If other religious organizations want to go through the same rigmarole and the same stuff that LifeWise did to get their things started and to start their own group, they have that power. This is America. They can go do that. But this took a long time to get started, a lot of manpower, a lot of work to do. And all they're asking is for you to give the decision over to the parents. Because wherever children will be, somebody will try to be a predator. That's just the truth of it. Like, no matter what, because the children are vulnerable. So somebody will always try to be a predator in that situation. But they are FBI background checked. They are putting roadblocks in place the same way a school does. But how many other teachers, school educators and stuff have that happen to children in? Like, it happens no matter what. That's all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we end community participation, is there anyone else who wanted to speak? Okay. We need 1 second. Yep. Okay. Sorry. We need a motion to extend community participation.
Second.
How long?
I would say till 5 minutes per person till we don't have any more speakers.
Mrs. Henners,
Yes.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay,
Yes.
Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Mast.
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me? My name is Morgan Aldridge. I have 2 kids currently in the district, 1 more coming up. I wasn't going to talk tonight because I feel like a lot of my feelings have already been shared by what Ashley said, but I wanted to come up and talk as a parent about parent choice. And this is a program that several of my friends in other districts have their kids enrolled in that has been so beneficial to them. Most other local school districts that I would compare in size and population to Huron have effectively implemented this program without a ton of problems. And this program is an opt-in program, not an opt-out program. This is not that parents have to say, I don't want my child to go. They have to make the effort to say, I want my child to come. And we love Huron City Schools. I'm a Huron City School grad. My husband's a Huron City School grad. My kids are 3rd generation Huron City Schools children. Our experience in the district has been so good, and it has been only missing one thing, which is the religious education for my children. And not just the religious education, but the community of religious peers that they would be able to establish within the LifeWise curriculum that several of my friends' children in other local school districts have been able to do. I've read a lot of things online, not responded to any of them. And one thing that I've read a lot is if you want your kid to have a private education, send them to a private school. I'm not Catholic. There are no private Christian schools around here. I'd have to drive my kids to Elyria every day. And that's far to be away from your little kids in elementary school. Me choosing this program for my children does not impact other families whatsoever. And taking away my choice to be able to do that makes me feel like there are better educational opportunities in surrounding districts, and that makes me really sad because we are die-hard Huron Tigers. We love it here. I also just want to note that it's my understanding that the board can change their policy at any time. And so to shut this program down before it even has an opportunity to roll out and impact children seems premature. If you guys can have these meetings every month and decide that you want to revoke the policy because you don't think that LifeWise is doing what they said they were going to do, I don't know why you wouldn't give the program a chance. Again, I just want to reiterate that I have a huge problem with the school board taking this right away from me as a parent. And I also want to say that there are a lot of people that feel the way that I do. And I will be very disappointed if you take my right away as a parent. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mike Golden. I missed it. Sorry.
Hello, my name's Mike Golden. And I just want to say, first of all, I appreciate everyone's opinion in this room. I'm sorry if I'm really passionate about this, but I have friends and family in this program locally, like Perkins, Edison, places very close to us who are having extreme successes. And irregardless of the religious ramifications of it, their schools are improving. And I just sit and think, I'm like, okay, I can't always make the best religious argument because we are a place of laws and religious freedom. But our Constitution defends the desire for us to have religious teaching within our schools, as long as it's not the government teaching it. So all I'm asking for is the choice. I understand and appreciate those who may not like LifeWise. Everything I've heard has been positive. I have not heard any of the negatives, the specific negatives that have been brought up today. I understand some things like peer pressure. I understand kids possibly being alone. I can't help or change that. And that shouldn't affect my desire to have a choice. And if I, as a parent, notice negative things about this program, I will pull my kids out. But so far, I have not heard a thing. It's all been positive, and they're not here to just shove Jesus down people's throats. They just want people to understand good morals. And often, yes, from a biblical basis, it's from the Bible. But I think a lot of us as a kid have learned moral stories from the Bible. Irregardless of Jesus and our religion and our spirituality, is, hey, these stories were taught in the Bible, and this is what you learn from them. Irregardless if you end up believing when you're an adult, you still take those stories with you. You still take those morals with you. And I believe as a nation, we have those morals, irregardless of if you're Christian or Muslim or Jewish or anything else. Nobody wants to murder people. That's in the Bible. It's clear. So because it's in the Bible, do we take it out? No. We don't want people murdering each other because we all know as human beings that that's not a good thing. So I'm just asking for choice. So please give my family and others a choice. And the program will succeed based on its own merits. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wanting to address the board at this time? I just want to thank each and every one of you, whether you spoke or not, for coming and being present this evening. It means a lot to the board that people are engaged and are concerned about what is happening in our schools. So thank you very much for coming. To have a discussion regarding the second reading of our policy. Opening it up for questions, discussion.
The thing that's most important to me is to make a change about core classes as far as the arts and music, etc. I think those should be considered something that a student should not be released from.
Wanted to bring up, it's not necessarily like directly on point to release for religious instruction, but I think it was a little over a week or two ago, Governor DeWine signed into law. So this isn't a proposed, when we talk about House Bill 445, that's something that it might happen, it might not, we'll see, but this is an actual law. And what the new law states is that public school districts have to provide up to 3 days per year for students to engage in whatever they call religious expression. So basically, if they wanted the day off, and they have to be excused absences without any scrutiny or documentation or proof of what your expression is, your religion is. So I wanted to point that out because it's new to our conversation from even a month ago that, if there were programs that wanted to happen or take place, this new law would allow 3 school days per year for arguably. Now we don't have, and the reason we haven't put that in front of the policies, we don't have the suggested, because it's so new, we don't have the suggested policy language from the OSBA yet to even discuss, but I wanted to throw that in the mix because I think it's important that there is now an outlet for, and you could certainly use whether it's religious expression to celebrate a high holiday, a church holiday, whatever, or if you wanted to spend the day engaged in religious instruction, we would have no control 3 days a year over allowing anything other than that as an excused absence. So I just want to point that out because to me, it changes the landscape a little bit about what's available to students and families as far as what the law allows. We kind of positioned this decision in front of us this way last month, and I guess I'll reframe it unless somebody thinks differently. We really have three options as a board. One is to hold the policy as it is with a few tweaks that the OSBA has suggested. The second would be to tweak it even further. Beth, you mentioned one option being, do we call core classes? And that might be something we have to carry through to some other policies too, right? I know there was somebody mentioned, and forgive me, I don't have who, but about we have requirements for to whom release for religious education can be made. I know they did something similar to that at Elyria City Schools recently. The third option would be to repeal the policy altogether, which right now is within our discretion as a school board. That, and with respect, and I certainly don't want to argue on this point, but there isn't a right currently under the law for release for religious education. It's something that a school district may do, but they may also just not have a policy and choose not to permit it. So I think those are the three options in front of us, just to kind of frame it up for discussion.
I guess I'm speaking out saying that I think parents should have the right, and I think if we can tighten it up, it would really be helpful, and it would be proactive in case the bill does pass. Not belittling lunch and recess. However, if a parent opts to have their child go, have a different type of interaction during that free play time, and if there's games involved or whatever, that is up to them, in my opinion.
So I guess I want to clarify too for folks, the public, when we're talking about, and there's a lot of talk about one particular program, we don't approve a program, we approve a policy. And if there is a policy, it is us deciding as a board, the 5 members sitting here in public session, in open discussion, what the right fit is for our district. And we either have the policy that is release time for religious instruction, or we don't have the policy. If we have the policy in place, any parent who chooses any program will send us a slip, and our district, our teachers, our building principals, our secretaries, our administrators will then be responsible for ensuring that those children are released in exercise of that policy. I said these things last month, that I have really strong feelings about lunch and recess, and I think that is, appreciate points that were raised about social emotional learning. We do have social emotional learning standards, in addition to all of the other curriculum pieces that are given to us by the state board, by the Department of Education, Workforce Transformation now, it's a very big long name. But social emotional learning standards are among that. So I appreciate the parents who have a mind on that. And we want to do better. When we undertook the ruler system from Yale, and that was a significant investment for our district several years ago. And I hear folks talking about the teachers, talking about the administrators in the buildings who really live those actions to try to have a positive impact on students. And that's where we want to go as a district, and those things are important. We're not perfect. We always can be making improvements to things, and I encourage every parent who is having challenges, their students are having challenges with that, to talk to us, to talk to their teacher, to talk to their building principal, to talk to the other kids' parents if there are some challenges going on. It's a lot of what we see on playgrounds. It's the kids trying out those social emotional learning skills. They're learning things in the classroom, and then they go out and they have their free unstructured time, which is really critical for their child development. So I said this last month, I'm not a fan of students leaving during lunch and recess. I'm not a fan of them leaving during specials. I think when we're a public school, when the children come in those doors, we have a tremendous responsibility to every child that's here. We have a responsibility to this community, to the families. But I think I am very concerned about the level of disruption that it would cause with having a group of students leave. And, new piece of information is, that every day the list could be changing. I'm really concerned about that for the people working in our school offices who also have to answer the phones and take care of the sick kid that's waiting for a parent to come pick them up, or this one leaving for an appointment. It's not about a particular program. Like I said, this is that we don't evaluate the curriculum of these programs. We don't evaluate the foundation for them. We don't evaluate the funding. We don't evaluate how the kids are getting where they need to go, who's picking them up. That's just outside of the scope of our job. But I haven't heard things that make me think it's the right fit for our district, and especially in our Woodlands building where we're still trying to settle into regrouping the grades as we consolidated with Shawnee.
So I guess, do we have more discussion? If not, any of us can make a motion to take action.
Excuse me, my mouth is pretty dry. I've really thought about this one back and forth a lot. There's a lot of issues, and it's definitely emotional in some cases, and and I appreciate what you just said, Stacy, on, we're really evaluating the program for any entity that wants to do this for, and how it impacts our schools. I've gone back and forth. I've met with people on both sides, as I'm sure most of you have, and they've alluded to. A lot for me, I think we probably need to make some change here. I don't know if we do go as far as repealing it or however you want to say that, but I think the core courses, maybe even the release responsibility and some of that probably needs to be addressed, and it would also be ahead if the state does pass something, but obviously that's just a what if at this point. But so that's kind of where I'm at procedurally. How do we? Can we just add language in a motion to what we currently have? Like, is that how?
Yeah. So what would need to be done is there needs to be a motion. Right now we have the recommended action: approve or retire the policy. So if somebody wants to do something other than approve or retire, then we would have to have language of what the motion is that you would like to bring before the board, and then it would be voted upon. And if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't pass, then another motion can be made for something different. I haven't said anything, but I do share a concern with just the responsibility that this puts on our administrators, our teachers, our office staff. I don't think any of us takes this policy lightly. I don't think any of us took this board meeting lightly. We need to do what is best for our staff, our students, what is in the best interest for their safety, what we are tasked with as public educators. And I think to kind of piggyback on what Mrs. Hartley said, last year at Woodlands was a big move, and there were issues, and we're working through those issues every single day. And this year's a new year, but I think then to throw something new again at that building that is trying so hard to make things work and to get kids educated and to do it right, it seems a bit unfair. But I guess my biggest concern is the safety of our students and the ease of our teachers teaching our kids and the least amount of disruptions in a day. Our students already have a lot of disruptions in the day. There are kids that get called out of class for special education reasons. There's kids that get called out of class to go to doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, and every time someone gets called out of class, I don't know how many minutes it takes that teacher to redirect that class back to what they're talking about. But I just think disruption is not great.
A concern too. I did look into the state legislation and looked at all of the testimony that has been offered so far, and I saw with some concern some public school district administrators went to the State House to offered public testimony in the name of their role as, say, a superintendent of a school district. It's things like that. I had my own personal experience. I shared with a parent here about being in a building where LifeWise was going on in another district, and a school administrator walked in, and it was like, knew exactly where they were going, didn't have anybody accompanying them, and it just, these things, I don't want to put a burden on our teachers, on our administrators, about having to walk that very fine line with what they can do and how they're spending public resources. And I think having this policy in place is just, I think, putting everybody in a really tricky spot that I don't want to see them having to worry about and spending energy on if they're doing the right thing or not.
To kind of piggyback off that, I mean, I think our job as a board, our mission is limited, right? We're to provide the best educational outcomes and environment that we can in a public school setting. And to me, part of our job is reducing as much complexity as we can, because there's so much complexity to what both the Ohio General Assembly throws at us, the Department of Education, but just in dealing with, the families and students of, I know we don't always consider ourselves the most diverse community, but we are. Socially and economically and religiously, we are a diverse community. The point about parent choice, and by the way, I appreciate the passion on both sides of this. I really do. For those of you that don't know me, my husband's a deacon over at St. Peter's. We're strongly committed to religious education, have a deep respect for it. So I say all that. I appreciate like all the work and thought and that's been put into this. But when we come back to choice and what this, whether this board's taking away a choice, I guess my reaction to that in some ways is nothing this board does affects your choice to build a relationship with God for your family. Nothing we do here today does that. You can always choose that for your family or not. You can always choose to seek out religious education opportunities for your kids in this community or not. I mean, nothing's changing that today. And I struggle with understanding the like focus, almost hyper focus on the choice only being effective during school hours. I don't understand it. It's illogical to me that somehow God can't change, and forgive me because this is my personal religious belief, but that somehow God can't like work in your life unless it happens between school bells. I don't understand where that's coming from. And again, that's a deeply personal decision to everybody. But I think if this negatively affects one student at Woodlands, then we're doing it incorrectly. And to the extent somebody said, well, that's not my problem. Well, it's our problem at this board, because our job is to have outcomes, public education outcomes that serve every student, regardless of their religion, regardless of their race, regardless of their gender. And so it is our problem sitting here. And I guess I go back to what is the simplest and least complex way to handle this? We focus on our mission. Our mission is to give a public education to kids. You have the rest of the day, the rest of the week to focus on anything else. And that's whether you choose to do that or not is your choice. But I don't think it's the responsibility of the Board of Education to make that choice for other families who might not want their kids to participate or might not want to be impacted by sitting in a classroom that's less than the public classroom that they expect to have day to day. To that end, if we're ready to make a motion, I'll make a motion. And that would be to retire the policy, which I assume is the same as repeal. Are we saying the same thing? Okay. Okay.
Second. Any other further discussion?
Mrs. Henners,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay, Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Mrs. Mast.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And then to board item number 10.
So the standing item here, the stakeholder facility committee. So just an update on that.
So I have an update on that, and actually, I'm asking for a substitute. My work has changed. I have to go back to the office, which is a very different situation for me personally. And I was talking to Beth about this. I just don't. I feel like I probably won't have time, at least for the next 6 months or so, to directly serve in this capacity. So I told Beth I'd help her get pushed out, but I think probably realistically back to Chris, Jody, or Stacy, or somebody needs to step in for me. And I apologize for that. I didn't see that one coming.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no rule that says we have to have 2 board members on that committee. But it did kind of delay the start date a little bit, so trying to sort that out. So
But we knew we had to be together to
yeah,
chat about what
chat
was
about it,
next.
Exactly. So
Chris, do you have interest in stepping in, or time even? Oh, you just started finance. Okay. What can I ask when you leave?
well, we're trying to establish that, and Stacey and I were trying to establish that, and then her work changed. So we were talking about potentially doing like a Sunday evening, or try to take the burden off a weeknight because families have so much going on. We did have a nice group of interest, and so I think it's going to be potentially sizable. So to accommodate as many people as possible, we were talking about Sunday evening.
Look, I'm open. Whatever, but I want to give, you and Chris, I defer to you too. If one of you's interested in doing it, I know you'll do a great job. If nobody else wants to do it, I'm happy to help. I'm totally open.
I'm interested in all the facility items, but again, I mean, I can defer to. So
Yeah, I'm out. So.
Chris?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much for stepping in.
So the update on that then is that I will get with you, and we'll hopefully get a first meeting date out soon.
Right. Do we have any new business this evening to come before the board? I just had a quick question. The butterfly garden and the passing of Mr. Hartley, Sandy Shue's father. I know that Mr. Hartley had a lot to do with that butterfly garden. Have we thought of doing anything to honor him? Any kind of plaque or something?
Yeah, I could check with Brian as far as at the building level, but not that I'm aware of right now. Yeah.
I would love for us to at least do something to honor him. Sandy's an educator in our district, and Mr. Hartley is a long lifetime resident in our community, and he took a lot of pride in that garden. So if we could come up with something, I think that would be really meaningful.
Aaron grabbed him at his wife when they were in kindergarten together in Huron schools. Full disclosure, it's my husband's uncle.
Yeah, Sandy does a lot with the garden.
Yeah,
she does. Yes.
So that'd be great if we could look into that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks. Any other new business? Okay. We will be entering into executive session for reasons of employment, contracts.
Employment. I move we go to executive session. The appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against employee, all that good stuff. item number 1.
Second.
We could take action. We could take action after executive session. So if you are interested, you're more than welcome to stay. If not, if not and you're leaving, our next school board meeting will be Monday, September 16th at 6 p.m. Yep.
Right, Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Mrs. Henners,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay,
Yes.
Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Yes.
7:20.
That's what's hard.
Yeah.
Okay. Write it down.
8:24.
Okay. Okay, great.
Thank you. Good job.
Right, so we are back in open session at 8:24 p.m. I would like to make a motion to extend a 1% performance stipend to Dr. Tapman for his final evaluation.
Second.
Okay. Does anyone have an agenda right in front of them? So we can, I mean, we can do that. Mrs. Henners?
Yes.
Mrs. Hartley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chris? Myself? Yes. Okay, motion passed.
Thank you guys.
You're welcome.
No, I'm excited to start year 3 here. Here we go.
Okay.
Gone quick. I move to adjourn.
We can do a consent. Okay.
Consent.
Great. We adjourned at
8:25.
Okay. I'm good. Happy first day of school, everybody. So do you want to have a happier first day of school? I'm sorry, what time did you say? 8:25. Oh my gosh, that's
1 minute.
Fan.
It's turned 8:24.